Dr. Elias Wren had learned long ago that space never truly slept. Even during quiet cycles, faint sounds echoed through the orbital medical station, distant engines, soft footsteps, and the low hum of machines keeping hundreds of patients alive. He had grown used to the rhythm. For him, work was not just a job. It was a promise. Every life that entered his care mattered, no matter the species or rank. The station floated near a major trade route, serving as a neutral hospital where beings from many worlds came when they had nowhere else to go. Some trusted human doctors because humans were known for trying impossible solutions. Others feared them for the same reason. Elias moved calmly through the corridor, reading reports on his tablet. Most cases today were routine: minor injuries, energy burns, a few infections. Nothing unusual. He felt tired but focused. After years of working in mixed-species medicine, he had learned to adapt quickly. The sudden alarm shattered the calm. Red lights flashed along the walls. A loud tone echoed through the medical wing. Emergency arrival. "Critical condition," the station's voice announced. Elias stopped walking and turned immediately toward the emergency bay. Staff rushed past him, their movements urgent. He increased his pace but kept his breathing steady. Panic helped no one. Inside the bay, equipment activated automatically. Surgical drones unfolded from the ceiling. Diagnostic scanners glowed to life. The doors slid open just as a group of armored figures entered. They were tall, their armor polished like mirrors. Blue energy lines ran along their suits, marking them as elite guards of an advanced civilization. Between them floated a medical pod, surrounded by glowing fields. Elias noticed how carefully they moved, as if guarding something extremely precious.
"Place the patient here," he said, pointing to the main table.
The pod opened slowly, revealing a small, alien child. She looked fragile, her silver-patterned skin dull instead of bright. Faint energy pulses moved across her body like weak waves. Her breathing was shallow, almost silent. Several alien doctors gathered nearby, whispering nervously.
One nurse approached Elias quietly.
"Doctor, this case may be political. We should wait for authorization." Elias shook his head gently. "If we wait, she dies." He began scanning immediately. Holographic displays formed around the child, showing complex biological systems unfamiliar even to him. Her species possessed both organic and energy-based functions, making treatment extremely difficult. The toxin inside her body behaved strangely. It did not simply poison tissue, it disrupted energy pathways that connected her organs. Elias frowned slightly. Whoever created it knew exactly how to cause maximum damage. One of the guards stepped closer. "Can you save her?"
Elias did not answer right away.
He focused on the data, analyzing patterns, comparing them with human medical archives. Human medicine was built on experimentation and adaptation. Sometimes that made other species uncomfortable. "She still has a chance," he said finally. He ordered new equipment, mixing chemical compounds and energy stabilizers in ways that made some alien doctors hesitate. "This method is untested for her species," one warned. Elias nodded. "Yes." But doing nothing is worse. He injected a small amount of the antidote. For several seconds, nothing changed. Then alarms intensified. Her heart rhythm dropped sharply. The room filled with tension. Some staff looked away, expecting failure. Elias stayed calm. He adjusted the dosage slowly, watching every reaction. Humans were known for stubborn patience, and he trusted his instincts. Gradually, the toxin's energy signature weakened. The red warning lights shifted to yellow. A quiet wave of relief moved through the room. "She is stabilizing," one nurse whispered. Time passed slowly as Elias continued monitoring her condition. Sweat formed on his forehead, but his hands remained steady. Finally, her breathing grew deeper, and her energy pathways began reconnecting. He stepped back slightly, exhausted but relieved. You saved her, one of the guards said softly. I helped her body fight, Elias replied. He expected the case to end there, but more officials entered the bay. Their robes were elegant, decorated with glowing symbols. Their expressions were serious, almost fearful. They examined the child carefully, then turned toward Elias with intense attention. The child opened her eyes.
Golden light shone faintly within them.
She looked confused at first, then focused on Elias. Slowly, she reached out and touched his hand. Her fingers were warm despite her earlier weakness.
You see, she whispered softly.
She annoyed her. Elias smiled gently.
Of course. The officials exchanged shocked looks.
One stepped forward. Doctor? Washed the lap of.
Do you understand who she is? Elias shook his head slightly. The official took a slow breath before speaking.
She is the royal heir of our empire. Silence filled the room. Elias blinked once, processing the information. He looked back at the child, now resting peacefully, and felt the weight of the situation begin to settle. Before he could respond, security protocols activated. Doors locked automatically. Additional guards arrived, forming a protective perimeter. Outside the station's window, a massive royal ship appeared, its presence overwhelming. The vessel's design was elegant and powerful, unlike anything Elias had seen before. Whispers spread among the medical staff. Some looked at Elias with awe, others with worry. The official spoke again, voice quieter now. You may not realize it yet, Doctor, but saving her life has placed you at the center of our empire's future. Elias felt a strange mixture of pride and unease. He had only done what any doctor should do. Yet the consequences were already growing beyond his control. The child squeezed his hand weakly. He realized then that this was only the beginning, not just for her, but for him as well. Far away, hidden forces watched carefully. The toxin had not been an accident. Someone powerful had wanted the heir to die, and now that she lived, new dangers would surely follow. Elias took a slow breath, preparing himself for whatever came next, because no matter who she was, royal heir or simple patient, he would protect the life he had saved. Dr. Elias Wren had faced many strange moments during his years in space, but nothing felt as heavy as the silence that followed the official's revelation. The child resting on the medical bed was not just a patient. She was the heir to an empire powerful enough to send an entire royal fleet across the stars. Outside the station's window, the massive royal cruiser glowed like a moving constellation. Smaller escort ships surrounded it, their energy shields flickering softly. The presence of such power changed the atmosphere immediately. Staff whispered nervously, and security systems switched to high alert. Elias looked down at the child again. She appeared peaceful now, her breathing steady. It was difficult to believe that someone so small could hold such importance. One of the officials stepped closer. The Queen is on her way, he said quietly. Until she arrives, you will remain here. He did not feel afraid, only curious and slightly uneasy. He had never cared about politics or status. Patients were simply patients. The child opened her eyes again. This time they were clearer, glowing faintly gold. Where am I? She asked softly.
You are safe, Elias said gently. You were very sick, but your body is fighting back now. She studied his face carefully, as if memorizing it.
You stayed with me, she said. Yes. Alien medical staff watched quietly from a distance. Some looked impressed, others unsure. Treating royalty was dangerous even for experienced doctors. Every action would be judged. Minutes later, the station shook slightly as docking clamps locked onto the royal cruiser. The main doors opened, and a new group entered. At their center walked a tall woman wearing flowing robes that shimmered like liquid light. Her presence filled the room immediately. Her expression was calm but heavy with concern. The Queen had arrived. Everyone bowed automatically except Elias, who only stepped back respectfully. He was human. Royal customs from other worlds were unfamiliar to him. The Queen moved quickly to the child's side. Her strong composure softened instantly. "My daughter," she whispered. The child smiled weakly. "Mother." Relief washed over the Queen's face, but it quickly changed into seriousness as she turned toward Elias.
"You are the human doctor," she said.
"Yes," Elias replied simply. She studied him carefully, her gaze sharp but not unfriendly. "They say you used methods unknown to our healers. I used what I believed would work," he answered. "And you saved her." "She saved herself. I only helped." The Queen watched him for a long moment, as if trying to understand him. Finally, she nodded slowly.
"Many would claim credit," she said quietly.
"You do not."
"I am only a doctor." The Queen turned back to the child, placing a gentle hand on her forehead.
"You frightened us all,"
she said softly. The child looked toward Elias again. "He was warm," she said.
"Not like the others." He stayed. A small smile appeared on the Queen's face.
Around them, advisors whispered urgently. One stepped forward. "Your Majesty, we must discuss security. This attack proves there is a traitor within the court." Attack. The word confirmed his suspicions. "The toxin was designed," he said calmly. "It was not natural." The room grew silent. "You are certain?" the Queen asked. "Yes. Someone created it specifically for her biology." Tension spread immediately among the royal guards. Weapons shifted slightly as they became more alert. The Queen's expression hardened. "Then someone wanted my daughter dead." The child closed her eyes again, tired from speaking. Elias adjusted her medical support gently. "She needs rest," he said. The Queen stepped aside but remained close. Hours passed as royal scientists examined Elias's treatment methods. Some questioned him carefully, surprised by the flexibility of human medicine. Humans were often seen as physically weaker compared to many alien species, but their adaptability made them unpredictable. "You combined chemical and energy therapies without prior testing," one scientist said.
"Yes," Elias replied calmly. "That is unusual."
"Your species takes risks others avoid." Elias smiled slightly. Sometimes risks save lives. Later, when most of the officials had left to discuss politics, the Queen approached him again.
"You may not realize it," she said quietly, "but you have become important to us. I only want her to recover." Elias answered, "And she will." The Queen said,
"But danger remains. Whoever attempted this will try again." Elias felt a weight settle in his chest. "Then she should stay under close medical watch. That is why I have a request," the Queen said. He waited.
"You will come with us to the royal capital as her personal physician." Elias blinked, surprised. "Your Majesty, I work here."
"This station needs doctors. We will compensate the station," she said gently, "but my daughter trusts you, and I trust her judgment." He looked at the child again. She slept peacefully, unaware of the decision being made around her. The idea of leaving everything familiar felt overwhelming. Yet, he also understood the risk. Whoever created the toxin might strike again. "I need time to think," he said honestly. The Queen nodded. "You shall have it. That night, Elias stood alone near the observation window, watching the royal fleet. He thought about Earth, about the path that had led him here, about the oath he had taken as a doctor. Behind him, small footsteps approached. The child had woken and walked slowly toward him, still weak but determined. "You are leaving?" she asked softly. "I don't know yet," he said. She looked up at the stars. "Go, play."
"Everyone leaves eventually," she said quietly. Elias felt a strange sadness in her voice.
"I won't disappear without saying goodbye," he promised. She smiled, faintly. Good. He realized then that this was no longer just about medicine. A bond had formed between them. Simple, human, and honest. Outside, the stars continued their silent journey, unaware that a single decision by a human doctor might soon change the future of an entire empire. And far away, hidden enemies watched the royal fleet's movements, preparing their next move. Dr. Elias Wren did not sleep much that night. The station felt different now. It was still the same metal corridors and soft lights, but the air carried tension. Royal guards stood at every intersection. Staff spoke in whispers. Even the machines sounded louder, as if the station itself understood that something important had changed. Elias sat at a small desk inside the patient room, reviewing the child's medical data again and again. Her vitals were stable, but the toxin had left behind weak damage in her energy pathways. If she became stressed or frightened, her body might struggle again. He adjusted her treatment plan carefully, writing notes in simple steps so any nurse could follow them. Across the room, the child slept in a medical nest made of soft material. Her golden eyes were closed. Her silver patterns were brighter now, slowly returning to their natural shine. The door opened quietly. The queen entered, alone this time. Without her advisors and guards, she looked less like a symbol and more like a mother who had almost lost her child. Her long robes flowed gently as she walked to the bedside. Elias stood and gave a respectful nod. "She is healing," he said softly, keeping his voice low. The queen watched the child's breathing.
"I can see that," she replied. "You brought her back from the edge."
"Your Majesty, the toxin was designed with knowledge. Whoever made it understood her biology and your medical practices."
"That means the enemy is close." The queen's eyes narrowed slightly.
Yes, and that is why we must move carefully. Elias leaned against the desk, tired but focused.
"If you take her to the capital, the risk may increase. You will be surrounded by the court again. If we stay here, the enemy learns we fear them. If we return, we show strength." Either path has danger. Elias respected her honesty. Humans understood that leadership often meant choosing between hard options. The queen looked at him again, studying him like she had the first time.
"You have not accepted my request yet." Elias took a slow breath. "I want to say yes," he admitted.
"But I also understand what it means. If I go, I become part of your politics. You will not be asked to play games," the queen said calmly. "You will be asked to protect my daughter." Elias looked at the child again. He remembered her small hand holding his, her whisper about warmth. He had treated thousands of patients, but there was something different about this one. Not because she was royal, but because she was alone in a world full of masks. He nodded once. "Then I will go." The queen's shoulders relaxed slightly, as if she had been holding her breath.
"Thank you," she said. Elias did not feel proud.
He felt responsible. The queen turned toward the door, then paused.
"Dr. Wren, there is something you should know." Elias waited. "My daughter's name is Lyra," she said softly.
"And she is not just heir to the throne. She is the key to our empire's stability."
Many factions want her controlled. Others want her gone. Elias frowned. Why? The queen's eyes grew distant. Because she carries something rare. A genetic signal passed through the royal line. It allows her to connect with the Empire's core systems. It is not only symbolic, it is functional. She was not just a princess. She was a living key.
And now, the Queen continued, someone has tried to destroy that key. Elias clenched his jaw. Then we must treat her like a child, not a tool. That is what makes you different from everyone else. When she left, Elias returned to his work, but his mind stayed alert. He began preparing medical supplies for travel, portable scanners, emergency injectors, energy stabilizers, and simple human tools that had saved lives before. He also requested access to the station's security logs. A security officer hesitated.
Doctor, those logs are restricted. Elias kept his tone calm. A child was attacked.
Whoever did it may strike again. I need to see patterns. The officer stared at him, then nodded slowly. We will give you a limited review. Elias studied the logs late into the cycle. He looked for anyone who entered the emergency bay during the critical period. The list was long. Guards, nurses, officials, technicians, but one detail stood out. That was unusual. Emergency bays were cleaned and prepared automatically. A drone should not have been there. Elias zoomed in on the video feed. The drone looked normal, but its movement was slightly off. It paused near the medical pod, and a tiny arm extended. It touched the pod's outer surface for less than a second. Elias's stomach tightened. That could have been where the toxin was introduced, a contact toxin hidden within a microlayer. He saved the clip and copied the data to a secure device. Then he did something that made several station staff uncomfortable. He requested to inspect the drone's storage bay himself. You are a doctor, a technician said. Not security. Today I am whatever keeps my patient alive. They allowed him in, but only with an escort. The drone bay was a large hangar-like room filled with silent machines. Hundreds of drones stood in rows, charging and waiting for tasks. Elias walked slowly, scanning their serial codes. He found the one from the logs. At first it looked normal, but when he opened its maintenance panel, he saw a small device hidden inside. It was not part of station equipment. The escort stepped back. That is illegal. Elias carefully removed the device with gloved hands and placed it into a containment box.
This is evidence, he said. The escort quickly called station security.
Within minutes, officers arrived, and the bay was locked down. The Queen's guards also arrived, their presence sharp and tense. When the Queen learned about it, she came immediately. She stared at the device, eyes cold.
So the attack reached even this station, she said.
Elias nodded.
Someone planted it. This drone was modified to deliver the toxin. The Queen's jaw tightened.
Then the enemy has deep reach.
One of her advisors, a tall figure with narrow eyes, leaned forward. Dr. Wren, how did you notice this?
Elias kept his voice calm.
Human training. We look for small changes. Boop patterns.
The advisor's expression did not soften.
Or perhaps you knew what to look for because you are involved. The room fell silent. Elias turned slowly toward him. He had dealt with suspicion before, but this was different. Here, one wrong word could make him an enemy of an empire.
The Queen's voice cut through the tension. Enough! Dr. Wren saved my daughter. He found evidence we did not.
If you doubt him, you doubt my judgment.
The advisor lowered his head slightly, but Elias could still feel the doubt in the air.
The Queen looked at Elias again. You have just proven why I need you.
Your instincts are sharp. Elias did not smile.
Instinct is not enough. We need to stop them. That same day, the royal fleet prepared to depart. Lyra was strong enough to travel, though still weak. Elias placed a small portable monitor on her wrist, linked to his own tablet. It tracked her vitals and energy flow in real time. Lyra watched him with calm curiosity. "Do you always carry so many things?" she asked softly. Elias chuckled gently. "Yes."
Humans like to be prepared. Lyra tilted her head.
My people say humans are chaotic, Elias smiled. Sometimes.
But chaos can also be flexible. When something unexpected happens, we don't freeze.
We
adapt. Like you did with the medicine.
Yes, he said. She looked down at the device on her wrist.
Will this keep me safe?
It will help me know if you need help, he replied. And if danger comes, we will move fast.
Lyra nodded slowly, trusting him in a way that surprised even the guards watching nearby. They boarded the royal cruiser through a private corridor. The ship was enormous inside, built like a palace. Smooth walls glowed softly. Hallways were wide and elegant. Yet Elias noticed one thing immediately. Despite all the beauty, the ship felt like a weapon. Every surface was designed with purpose. Hidden defenses, silent security systems, and emergency doors that could seal instantly. Lyra was placed in a protected medical suite near the Queen's chambers. Elias set up his equipment again, turning the room into a compact human-style clinic. Royal medics watched him with mixed feelings. Some looked curious. Others looked offended by his direct approach.
He moves like a battlefield medic, one whispered.
Elias heard it and did not care. In a way, he was a battlefield medic now.
The battlefield simply wore gold and silk instead of dust and smoke. The ship launched. The station drifted away behind them, shrinking into the stars. For a few hours, everything remained calm. Then the first sign of danger appeared. Elias was reviewing Lyra's readings when the monitor beeped sharply. Her energy flow spiked, then dropped. He looked up quickly. Lyra sat up in bed, eyes wide. "Something is wrong," she whispered. Elias moved to her side. "What do you feel?" "Cold?" she said.
Not in my skin.
Elias scanned her immediately. Her vitals were stable, but her energy pathways showed a new disturbance, like a shadow moving through them. His blood ran cold. "The toxin," he whispered. "It's not fully gone." He had removed most of it, but if a hidden dose remained, it could react under certain conditions. Or someone had triggered it remotely. Elias turned toward the room's security panel. "Seal this suite," he ordered the ship's system. The door locked instantly. Royal guards outside reacted. Voices sharp.
"Doctor, what is happening?"
Elias shouted through the intercom.
"Lyra's energy is destabilizing. Keep everyone away until we confirm the cause." The Queen arrived within minutes, her face tight with worry.
What did you find?
Elias spoke quickly. There's a fresh disturbance.
It may be a delayed effect, or someone is influencing it. I need full access to ship systems.
I need to know if anyone has entered this suite remotely or sent energy pulses through the ship. An advisor hesitated.
That level of access is forbidden. Elias looked straight at him. Then,
your heir may die while you protect rules. The Queen's eyes flashed. Give him access. The advisor stiffened but obeyed. Elias connected his tablet to the ship's network. Data flowed fast. He searched for any unusual energy wave patterns. He found one within minutes. A pulse had traveled through the ship's internal power lines, subtle enough to hide under normal operation. But it matched the toxin's signature. Someone had triggered it. Elias's stomach tightened.
"There is an active saboteur on this ship," he said quietly.
The Queen's face became ice.
"How many?"
"I don't know," Elias admitted. But they just made their move.
Lyra's breathing became shallow again.
Her silver patterns dimmed.
Elias acted instantly. He prepared a second antidote, stronger than before, designed to block the toxin's energy response. Ooh. It was risky. Too much could damage her natural pathways. Too little would fail. He looked down at Lyra.
I need you to stay with me, he said gently. Lyra's golden eyes met his.
I will, she whispered, voice weak but steady. Elias injected the antidote carefully, then used a stabilizer to guide her energy flow back into balance. The monitor beeped wildly, then slowly calmed. The yellow warning returned, then faded. Lyra's breathing steadied again. Elias released a breath he did not realize he was holding. The Queen's hand trembled slightly as she touched Lyra's forehead. My brave star, she whispered.
Lyra opened her eyes weakly and looked at Elias.
You promised you would move fast, she said softly.
Elias smiled tiredly.
And I will keep promising until you are safe. But inside, he knew the truth. This was no longer a single attack that had failed.
This was a war hidden behind walls of gold. And a human doctor, an outsider, had just become the most dangerous obstacle to the enemy's plan. Far down the corridor, unseen by Elias, a shadow moved away from the security terminal. A figure disguised as crew watched the sealed medical suite for one final second, then disappeared into the ship's glowing halls. The enemy had tested their power. Next time, they would not settle for a test. And Elias knew that if he wanted Lyra to live, he would have to do more than heal. He would have to expose the traitor inside the royal ship before the ship reached the capital. The royal cruiser moved silently through deep space, its engines glowing like distant stars. Inside, tension had replaced the earlier calm. Guards stood sharper, officers spoke in low, urgent voices, and every system monitored for hidden threats. Dr. Elias Wren remained beside Lyra's bed, watching the readings on his tablet carefully. Her condition had stabilized again after the sudden attack, but Elias knew the danger was not over. Someone on the ship had triggered the toxin remotely. That meant the enemy was close. Closer than anyone wanted to admit. Lyra slept quietly, her silver patterns faint but steady. Elias adjusted a small monitor on her wrist, ensuring her energy pathways stayed balanced. He felt exhausted, but he refused to leave her side. The Queen entered the room with heavy steps. She looked calm on the outside, but Elias could see the fear behind her eyes. You saved her again, she said softly. For now, Elias replied honestly. But whoever did this is still here. The Queen nodded slowly. My advisors are searching every section of the ship. Elias hesitated before speaking.
Your Majesty, searching may not be enough.
The traitor understands your security systems. They are hiding inside the structure of your command.
The Queen studied him carefully. You suspect someone close to me.
I suspect someone with authority, Elias said calmly.
Silence filled the room. The Queen turned toward the window, watching the endless stars.
If that is true, then the danger is greater than I feared.
Elias walked toward a nearby console and displayed the energy pulse data he had recorded earlier. This signal came from within the command network. It was disguised as a routine system adjustment. Only someone with high-level clearance could send it. The Queen's expression hardened. Then, we will find them. Later that cycle, a private council gathered in a secure chamber. Elias stood slightly apart while royal advisors debated loudly. Some wanted to lock down the entire ship. Others argued that such action would create panic. One advisor, the same one who had questioned Elias earlier, spoke sharply. We cannot rely on a human outsider for security conclusions. His methods are unconventional.
Elias remained silent, allowing the Queen to respond. He has saved my daughter twice, she said firmly. That gives him the right to speak. The advisor lowered his head slightly, but did not look convinced. Elias stepped forward slowly. I do not understand your politics, he said calmly, but I understand patterns.
The traitor wants Lyra alive long enough to reach the capital. That suggests a public attack. Something symbolic.
Murmurs spread around the table. Why wait? Another advisor asked. Because killing her here would be hidden, Elias replied. Killing her in front of your empire would create chaos. The room fell silent again. The queen nodded slowly.
You believe the final attack will happen after arrival, but they may try smaller actions before then to weaken her.
The queen looked around at her council. From this moment forward, Dr. Wren has my full authority to assist security operations. Some advisors looked shocked, but none argued. Elias felt the weight of responsibility grow heavier. Hours passed as he worked with security teams, analyzing system logs and crew movements. Humans often approached problems differently, focusing on behavior rather than hierarchy. Elias noticed something unusual. One advisor, the same man who had doubted him, appeared in multiple system records shortly before each suspicious energy fluctuation. His access level allowed him to modify minor systems without drawing attention.
Elias did not jump to conclusions. Instead, he watched quietly.
When the ship entered the final stage of its journey toward the royal capital, celebrations began among the crew. Many believed the danger had passed. Elias did not. Lyra stood beside him near the observation window, stronger now, but still recovering. Are we safe? She asked softly. Safer, Elias said gently. But not safe yet.
But not safe yet. She watched the stars carefully. My tutors always said humans are fragile.
But you are not fragile. Elias smiled faintly. Humans are fragile. We just don't stop moving. Lyra thought about that for a moment, then nodded. Suddenly, alarms rang across the ship. Red lights flashed. Energy surge detected in central systems, the computer announced. Elias's heart raced. He grabbed his tablet and ran toward the command deck, guards following closely.
The Queen arrived moments later. What is happening? She demanded.
An officer responded quickly. Someone is attempting to override the energy core. If they destabilize the core, the shockwave could affect Lyra's energy pathways. It could trigger the toxin again.
The Queen turned sharply. Seal all exits. Security doors closed instantly.
Elias scanned the system logs rapidly. The override command originated from a private terminal, one assigned to a high-ranking advisor, the same advisor who had doubted him. Elias looked up slowly. Your Majesty, it is here? Oh! Before anyone could react, the advisor stepped forward from the crowd. His expression was calm, almost peaceful.
You should have stayed a simple doctor, he said quietly.
Guards raised weapons immediately.
Why?
The Queen asked, voice cold. The advisor smiled faintly. Because your empire has grown weak, you cling to tradition while enemies surround us. Lyra represents the old system. With her gone, the Council can take control and rebuild stronger. Lyra stood behind Elias, fear visible in her eyes.
You tried to kill a child, Elias said firmly. She is not a child, the advisor replied.
She is a symbol.
Elias stepped forward protectively.
Elias
stepped forward protectively. To you, maybe. To me, she is a patient. The advisor activated a small device hidden in his hand. The ship trembled as energy surged through the systems. Lyra gasped, her energy readings spiking again. Elias moved instantly.
I need access to the core controls,
he said quickly. The Queen nodded. Give it to him. Elias rushed to the main console. He did not know the ship's systems completely, but he understood energy patterns. Using human-style improvisation, he rerouted the energy flow. creating a temporary buffer to protect Lyra's biological signature. The advisor laughed softly. You delay the inevitable. Elias ignored him, focusing entirely on stabilizing the energy wave. Sweat covered his forehead as he adjusted controls faster than most alien engineers thought possible. Finally, the energy surge slowed. Guards restrained the advisor, taking the device from him. Lyra's readings returned to stable levels. Silence filled the command deck. The Queen walked slowly toward the captured traitor. You betrayed your people, she said quietly.
I saved them, he replied.
The Queen turned away without another word. Take him away. As the guards removed him, relief spread slowly through the crew. Elias stepped back from the console, exhausted but steady. Lyra approached him slowly.
You stopped it? She said. We stopped it, he replied gently.
The Queen faced him again. You have done more than save my daughter, she said.
You have protected the future of our empire.
Elias shook his head slightly. I only did what I had to. She smiled faintly. That is what makes humans extraordinary. Days later, the royal cruiser arrived at the capital world. Crowds gathered to welcome the heir's return. Lyra stood beside her mother, strong and alive. Elias watched quietly from the side, feeling both proud and unsure of his place. The Queen approached him one final time. You came here as a doctor, she said, but you have become something more. A bridge between worlds. Elias looked at Lyra, who smiled at him warmly. Then I will stay, he said quietly, at least until she no longer needs me. The Queen nodded, satisfied. As the celebration began, Elias realized that saving one life had changed many others, including his own. In a universe filled with power and danger, a single act of compassion had reshaped destiny, and for the first time since arriving among the stars, he felt exactly where he was meant to be.